Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A brand new season of SDN gets underway here tonight, and what a better place to start than the season opener, typically in F1, which is the Australian Grand Prix. The curtain rises at Albert Park, a circuit that always delivers drama, fast, fierce, flowing corners mixed with heavy braking zones, narrow racing lines, and unforgiving walls that punish the smallest mistakes. It's a track that demands confidence in every entry, precision through direction changes, and bravery under braking, especially on cold tyres at the start of the new campaign. And all eyes, of course, are on Kevin Zundberg, but of course he's not here tonight. The reigning champion who dominated Season 6 with relentless pace and consistency all the way through to claim the title. But this season promises to be a good one as well, with regular contenders in the mix, such as Fireblaze, Kirk, Lucas, Mel's, Jens, and the rest of them as well. Hopefully it's a good season here because Kevin Zundberg did dominate with his relentless raw speed and pure pace as well, but obviously he is not here tonight, so expecting to see some new changes and hopefully some different winners. We've got some former champions here too, in the name of Fireblaze and also Kick, so let's see what they can do here tonight as well. And I know Fireblaze and Kick and Lucas are quite strong around the circuit. Last season it was very wet, it was thunderstorms and treacherous indeed the conditions were, but it is completely sunny spells here tonight in Australia. And we're on board with the McLaren driver, and the McLaren driver seems to be Ryan, but unfortunately he has invalidated the exit of turn 9 and turn 10. That is quite a common place to invalidate, unsurprisingly indeed, because you carry so much speed through the left bend and the right bend, and ultimately as well the punishment is carry too much speed, go out wide, and therefore invalidate on your lap time. But no need to worry, of course, because it's still early in qualifying and mistakes can be made in Q1, but of course it's all about learning from your mistakes and going once again. We're going to see a recurring theme of people going on the intermediate compound tyres, because that's the tyre people tend to go for. Let me just check if my mic's working real quick, because the icon doesn't seem to be popping up right now, which is very weird. Yep, the mic seems to be working. On board or off board with the Mercedes driver, Tyson goes quickest in the Kick Sauber with a 16.2. But Mel's now is dashing towards the line, and what an incredible lap time. A 50.1 is an absolute blister, and to be honest with you, that is rather impressive there, especially given the early days here in qualifying. The track not green, well the track is green, sorry, and still ramping up and still improving, and to be setting those lap times earlier on in qualifying is rather impressive indeed, and could be on course for good things later on in qualifying. Ryan looks like he's validated once again, so looks like he's struggling, but this time it's not a turn number 10, it seems to be a turn 6. That's also a common place to validate as well, as TVH goes up into P3 on the intermediate compound tyres with a 22.088. Well, of course, on the intermediate compound tyres, so expect him to be quick at this stage. But of course, like I said, the Australian Grand Prix, the track opener or the season starter, and it's better that way because Australia, in my opinion, is a better round than, let's say, Bahrain, because obviously the crowd is absolutely electric, the place is absolutely glorious too to start in Australia, and it just seems to be better. No offense, of course, to Bahrain, but it seems like a better place to do so. And you guys probably know what I'm talking about, of course. Bahrain's a good circuit, it's a good track to battle on, but Australia has better atmosphere, a better crowd, etc., and just better in general. But Happy Meal now coming towards turn 9 and turn 10. I don't think he got a win last season. There's a bit of carbon fibre spooned on the track, so I think somebody has had a skirt coming together with the wall there. As we head through turn 10, Happy Meal now flings the car in at turn 11, seems to have good speed underneath that Red Bull car. Better save. That car wasn't ghosted. I dare say that would have been tears for Happy Meal. But as he rounds the final corner, let's see what the Dutchman could do as he crosses the line with a 15.800. And despite it looked like a blistering lap time, Mels Mackis sort of tied in the pit lane knowing he's safe. Despite it being a good lap time, I thought it was good enough to be higher up than that. But it seems that nobody is matching the pace of Mels Mackis so far. He looks very comfortable so far in first place with a 15.153, and there's no need for him to go out once again. And alongside me is Milan Langer, as I'm losing my voice. Apologies again.
Hello, thank you for the introduction. But yes, here we are again for another new season, and I'm very excited to see what the season is going to bring us. So we've been a few minutes here in Q1, but it seems like a lot of drivers still need to set it up time. Surprised to see Ryan on the grid, to be honest, here in the McLaren, but we'll see what he can do. One of the other drivers who is known in JSR is Sasha, who is down in P14 in the Ferrari, also driving tonight it seems, and he's making his way towards the braking zone of turn 3. And let's see what he's going to be able to do. We know Mels is very quick around this track. Last week I did commentated in his league, and he won that race, and I think he started from pole position as well. So that's a big moment there for Sasha. But Mels Marcus retiring is not a surprise for me, and with the 15.1 definitely quick enough to make it through the next part of qualifying, especially knowing that there's only going to be one, maybe two drivers going out in Q1, so you don't need that much of a quick lap time. But Sasha making his way through this chicane, very easy to run out just a little bit too wide and catch yourself a track limit, something you quite often see here at Melbourne, but it seems like the Ferrari driver has managed to make it through there cleanly. Now we did see that moment earlier on, so he might have lost a few tenths of a second with that at most, but I think it still will be enough to go into the 115s at least. But let's see if it's going to be putting himself in between Mels Marcus and Olijf Oli, or behind the McLaren and ahead of Leonard as he crosses the line. It's going to be 116.002, so I was wrong. It's not going to be a 115, but a 116 just about, with 2 thousandths of a second. Fireblaze in the second Mercedes also has started his fly lap, but he runs through the grass there on entry of turn 6 and 7. But I don't think he lost too much time with that. In fact, he didn't even run right out of the corner, so lucky to not pick up a track limit there. But now flat out towards that same chicane, turns 9 and 10 so quick, as it can be taken flat out, or it used to be taken flat out in qualifying conditions at least. But it's a little bit more difficult in with these the dirty air and whatever in the race as well. As for me on board, he's completely missing his front wing, so a bit of a visual glitch, but we'll work around it. But now into the penultimate corner goes the Mercedes driver. Let's see if he can put himself on the front row alongside his teammate here in Q1. Can he go quicker than Sasha is the question. I think the answer will be yes, and the 15.9 puts him just inside the top 5 behind Happy Meal.
Is Mels Marcus continuing his great success from Abu Dhabi all the way to Australia? It seems so, because nobody seems to be matching his pace. He's relentless, and that speed has put him up to first place by 6 tenths of a second. His closest competitor is Ollie in P2, or Olive, sorry, in P2, but Lennon in P3 as well in the Racing Bull. So Mels Marcus is looking supreme so far in that Mercedes. We've got Ryan coming through turn 10, has invalidated both on occasions, down at turn 10 and down at turn 6, but this time looks to be clean so far, and let's see what his reward is. And sometimes Ryan can be genuinely he's a quick driver, let's not be forgetful about that one. He's very quick. He goes a bit deeper towards turn 13, coming towards the final corner now with the DRS wide open down this main straight. Let's see what lap time he can set in the McLaren. He goes P2, pretty much confirms what I'm saying. It's a McLaren P2 and P3, but we'll see if anybody can try and get closer towards Mels Marcus. And by the way, Mels Marcus, it took him one attempt to do that with a 15.1. Extraordinary lap time indeed. Caught me by surprise. And to be setting those lap times early on in qualifying while the track has not fully evolved and still dirty and still green, and the rubber not just there yet for the tyres, is sensational indeed. We've got Mummy Nick in the Kick Sauber starting his flying up towards turn 1. Turn 2 we go. These corners come at you thick and fast with the DRS wide open once again towards this second straight. Headed down in towards turn 3. Heavy on the brakes once again. Down the gears. Hitting the apex. But a bit wide there, but scoops the car up nicely to go through turn 4, but not really the line he wants to take. Now coming through turn 6, where we saw Sebastian Vettel and Robert Kubica crash back in 2009 when they came to blows at turn 3, but still both of them end up in the wall together. Well, separate incidents of course down at turn 6, because Robert Kubica just crashed out with understeer. Sebastian Vettel, I think he had a slide out of turn 5 going in towards turn 6. Mummy Nick powers his way in the Kick Sauber towards turn 9, flick the car in, just crank the steering wheel there, carry as much speed as you want as well, don't screw off any speed necessary. There's an Alpine, get out of the way as we head down towards turn 11 we go, hard on the brakes once again, clips the apex very nice, the car bounced a little bit too for good measure as we now thread a needle through turn 12, gets on the curb, but the back of the car seems to destabilise just a bit too, and he may have lost a little bit of time, but he's been very aggressive as well towards these corners, losing a bit of time here and there, as they now the Kick Sauber down the main straight he goes. It's going to be a 16.2, and he's ahead of Ticey for the time being. It's P8 for the Kick Sauber driver, but both Kick Saubers, well, they despite we see them getting close towards the borderline of being out of Q1, Q2 sometimes, they always try and put in a good performance in the race. The regular top 10 finishers is Kick Sauber. Yes, they haven't scored a podium last season, but both of them have been rather consistent. And Mummy, Nick and Ticey, they both had their respective fair shares of good results so far. So let's see what they can do. But Mummy Nick never quits. He's a quick driver, a consistent midfield driver. But we're on board with Nick A in the Williams. As we head down towards now turn on and turn 10, it's a 43.6, pretty much what Mummy Nick did on his last flying lap. But Nick there just bounced over the curbs in towards turn 10 as he heads zone, and Mark has got up the order now. He goes up into P2, another unexpected name. Nick as well goes a bit deeper towards turn 11, but still is still valid enough to keep going and continue with his lap time. He flickers the car in towards the slow speed corners, now putting up to the gears once again with the DRS wide open, foot flat to the floor. You open the DRS a bit late there too for good measures. Now heads towards the line, he goes P12, so I think he may be in a bit of danger considering how quick Kick is, and Stefan as well. Stefan has invalidated on his lap time. We haven't really seen much of a Stefan, have we, Milan? As well, he hasn't really pretty much turned up last season, but when we have, he is a quick driver indeed.
Yes, indeed. I think we saw him in Abu Dhabi, and he was quite competitive there. So well, let's see what he's going to be able to do. I think he's going to start on the lap right now, but Kick is on the lap as well in the Williams, so we know Kick is very quick and definitely going to be a contender for pole position, at least with Mel's Marcus in the Mercedes. Can he go quicker than the Mercedes? Like you said, it's a sensational lap time from Mels, but I'm not really surprised that he did put that lap time in, because I know he practiced quite a bit, quite a few hours for his race last week. As we see one of the RBs hopefully not getting into the way there of Kick, as he clobbers across the inside curb, but doesn't lose too much speed with that. But the question will be, can he go quicker than Mels? It has looked quite clean so far in this lap. But will it be quick enough? Can he put himself ahead of Mark at least in the Aston Martin as he comes out of the final corner towards the finish line? Not much ERS to work with, and it's going to be a 15.4 as well, 2.5 tenths of a second behind Mels, and just ahead there of Mark in the Williams. But then Stefan going quite deep there in towards turn 11. Not really a line you want to take through there, and I'm sure he lost a tenth of a second at least with that. So that's not going to be, and once again deep in towards the penultimate corner as well. It's a messy lap so far from the Alpine. Another big moment through the final corner, and there's going to be a lot of time to be gained on this lap, and only with 3.5 minutes to go. Does he have another chance? Because P12 right now, I'm not quite sure if that's going to be enough, although we've got the likes of Colin in the Haas down in P16, and TV Chanel also 4 tenths of a second away, and Octavia still hasn't set a lap time either. So he might just be able to get it safely through Stefan, but there aren't drivers behind him who should be able to go a little bit quicker. Geitenkaas is one of those drivers who has just started his flying lap, the teammate of Stefan. So the two Kick Saubers 10 11, the two Alpines 12 and 30, but I'm sure Geitenkaas would like to get himself up in towards the top 10 potentially. It's something he should be able to do, because we know he can be quite quick, but occasionally struggles in qualifying as he makes his way through Sector 1 and finds only 19 thousandths of a second, but it's an improvement so far. Fireblaze thinks he will be safe, and he should be down in P9 inside the 115s. Everyone else behind him in the 116s, as there are few other drivers retiring as well, as they know they will not be under any pressure of going out in Q1, and that's a big improvement from Geitenkaas in Sector 2. Not sure what he did on in his first lap to lose 4 tenths in the middle sector, which is basically a straight, and the exit there of the turn 6 and 7 chicane going onto that straight, but he gained a lot of time on this lap at least. Now through this final sector, just have to keep it clean, and he should be able to put himself right behind Fireblaze, I think, with a high 15 or a low 16. As he hits the outside wall coming onto the start-finish straight. It's going to be a high 15 just behind Fireblaze. In fact, 1,000th of a second separating the two of them, but that should be enough for Geitenkaas, who goes way deep in towards turn 1 into the grass as well for good measure. But there's a lot of drivers still out on track who need to improve. Dicey is one of them. His teammate Mominek still in pit lane. I don't think he's going to be going out, so he is going to risk it And there's drivers behind him who can improve. Stefan, I don't think he made it in time to go out for another lap, so he will be watching over his shoulder, hoping nobody behind him is able to improve. With 1 minute and 20 seconds to go, they will be in pit lane for the remainder of this session. And everyone behind Stefan is going out on a lap as well to try and improve. As Thijs comes out of the final corner, can he go ahead of his teammate and maybe even put himself inside the top 10? As he crosses the line, he does improve ever so slightly, just ahead of his teammate, puts it in P11, but the real fight is going to be behind him to get knocked out in Q1.
Exactly as well. Kevin Zumberg, the last season champion, is in the chat, and he's winning his man on Khatagas in the Alpine. Like you said, he does struggle in qualifying, but does tend to bounce back in the race. Remember, he picked up a podium back at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and it was a great race for him as well. And back in Las Vegas too, he did struggle a tad. I think he got knocked off the podium as well on that race. And we'll see what Octavia could do in P17 as well. And our usual suspects who get them out of Q1 are at the bottom end of the field, which is Octavia, Colin, TVHNL and Nick down in P14. All four of them on a lap time, but Stefan could be in danger from these guys behind as Octavia rounds the final corner. Let's see, can he leapfrog the guys ahead and get himself in towards Q2? The answer is yes, which pushes TVHNL down in towards 16th place, but he is on a lap time coming through the middle sector, turn 9 and turn 10. He's 300s up in that middle sector, but that's not going to be enough to try and get himself outside the elimination zone, the danger zone. Nick is also in the bubble too in P15. I think he's somewhere out there on a lap time. Yes, he is coming towards now the final two corners on this racetrack. Takes a very wide line going towards the final corner. Is this going to be enough for Nick to try and get himself outside the danger zone and the threat to the guys behind? It is P12 for him. Stefan now is on the cusp of elimination, and let's see what TVHNL does. He goes or stays P16. One man left in this qualifying session to determine who will make it through Q2, but unfortunately he stays in P17 and will not improve on his lap time. Stefan, lucky escape there from the Dutchman. Unusual for him to be down in P15, so a lot of improvement needs to be done for Stefan there in 50th place. We usually see him inside the top 10, does the Dutch drive. I remember back in the Belgian Grand Prix as well when it was raining that day. I think it was F1 Shorts who won the race because Eastbrand chose the wrong strategy, or I think F1 Shorts pitted earlier than Eastbrand got the Intermediate Cup hard tyres. Then Eastbrand was catching, and Stefan was ahead of Eastbrand for the time being. Then he spun out of Stavler. Do you remember that?
I remember that moment very well, where he lost himself a podium. But today he's in P15, just makes it through by a few hundredths of a second. Let's hope we don't get a repeat of that. But what he needs to focus right now is getting himself through into Q3. Because at the moment it's not looking very well, but like we saw on his lap, he had quite a few mistakes. So he should be able to improve quite a bit if he does hook it up right. But right now in P15, 7/10 or 800ths of a second ahead of TVHNL and Colin. Both drivers going out in Q1, the only two to go out, and they'll have to sit out the rest of this qualifying session. But at the top, it is Mels Marquez with a 2.5 advantage over Kick, and really is the favorite for pole position, and I think it will be quite easily so as well, because I think he will be able to go into the 140s, but only one lap from the Mercedes driver at the beginning of the session, and to be doing that with a 115.1 that easily will sure put him in as a contender for pole position. But now we move on to the second part of qualifying, and we will see who is going to make it towards Q3, which 5 drivers will get knocked out in this fight to get themselves inside the top 10. And then we will determine pole position later on. But there's going to be quite a few drivers who should be safe of making it through. But a mistake is very easily made around this track. And it's also very easy to get yourself track limits. So it's not going to be that easy for some of these drivers. But you would expect that the likes of Mels Marquez and Kick and those drivers who were at the top in Q1 will be able to make it safely through. But the two Saubers making it through into Q2, they're going to have a bit of a fight making it through into Q3. They will have to hope for some luck or some other drivers to have some trouble in the second part of qualifying. But I have a feeling you can write those down as potential contenders to be knocked out, along with Octavia potentially and Nick in the Williams. But we'll see. Maybe they can put in a surprise performance and put themselves in Q3 with the big names. But it's 15 minutes here for Q2. And the first one out on track is Happy Meal in the Red Bull.
It is indeed then Christian in the Red Bull, and remember last season as well, got himself in a bit of a few incidents. I remember back in Las Vegas, the Dutch GP, Abu Dhabi as well, a young head on young shoulders, it must be said there, for Happy Meal. Let's see if he could try and cool down his composure and try and calm himself as well, because every time he gets himself in a bit of a situation, he just tends to lose his head a little bit too. So I think he needs to try and cool himself down and focus on long-term game. Back at the Japanese Grand Prix, that was his biggest chance, I dare say, to win. And back at the Dutch GP too, potentially, that was a big chance for him to win too, because back in Japan, he was beaten by Fireplace down towards turn one. And he put in a report as well, which many people did laugh at the fact that Happy Meal did. And I saw it, I don't know if you saw it, but it was a hard but fair move, in my opinion. Robin is racing, and that's what happens as well, going down towards turn one. So sharp, a double right-hander going through turn one and turn two at the Japanese Grand Prix. But Happy Meal is still searching for his first win. Miles Mackey's got it, and I didn't think Miles Mackey's would do, to be honest with you, because, well, he has good pace, but in terms of the same consistency and level as Happy Meal, they're both on the same level, but I think Miles Mackey's is a little bit better. But here we go through turn one. Let's see how he takes it. Goes on the grass on the outside, coming through turn one and turn two. Very nice there indeed, using all the track in turn two. DRS enabled, lean on the curb at turn two as well, headed down towards the heavy breaker. So we go down through the gears, we go, clipping the apex very nicely, just modulate the throttle and get back on it through turn four we go. Seems to be very hooked up nicely, coming through turn six right now in sixth gear on the power once again, and now flicking through this quick right-hander we go, through 7 and 8 we go, with the battery being deployed and the DRS for being able to, of course, DRS was first enabled here back in 2011. I think it was Jensen Button who was the first one to use it in terms of overtaking, and Adrian Suter spun with it open when he entered the final corner. 43.3 in the middle sector, but did he get it hooked up? He's on the curb, and unfortunately has invalidated. Went a bit too hot there, did Happy Meal, and unravelled all his good progress he made going through turn 9 and turn 10, and unfortunately his lap time has been ruined then. So let's look behind us to see who else is out there. Quite a lot of people, as you expect in this qualifying session, is out there so far. I think Stefan's one of them. Well, his Alpine teammate is the next one to cross the line, which is Kass in the Alpine, but unfortunately he himself has also invalidated too, but he's going to go across the line to potentially complete his lap time to have a reference point as well. It's always good to have a reference point in comparison to your next final lap, to have a indication to see how quick your pace is and where you are and where you need to improve. But I suspect as well, Stefan goes quickest, but obviously that's not a competitive lap time. But I think what you're seeing, Milan, is a McLaren hitting the wall.
Yes, it was Ryan coming out of the final corner just a little bit too early on throttle and slamming into the inside wall. He would have gone quickest as he was on a valid lap, but he completely ruined that lap time. It's going to be 21.2, but Octavia then is going to be the first one to start with lap time, but a 16.5. Definitely not going to be enough to make it into Q3. You need to be at least in the 115s like Mels, but I have a feeling that Mels set this lap time on a used set because he did a 15.1 in Q1 and now he's in a 15.9. So that's something you can see that some of the drivers will use an older set of tires. So that Mark goes a little bit quicker than a 15.9. Also got some good pace so far in qualifying, as he usually does within the race. It is a bit more tricky for the Aston Martin drivers. Geidekas once again with an invalidation down in P50. More lap times coming in, and it's Shasha with a 16.9. These are really not the times you would expect here in Q2. So I do have a feeling that the majority of these drivers are not on a brand new set of tires. So these lap times will be hardly representative at all. But there are more banker laps in this session. Let's see what Kick can do in the Williams as he makes his way through Sector 1. It seems like a decent opening to his lap as he hooks it up very nicely there through turn 6 and 7 now. Flat out through turn 8 and then heading towards that deadly chicane where it's so easy to run out wide, which we saw Happy Meal do earlier, who as Olevo, he goes to 15.8, putting himself at the top in the McLaren. So Kick does make it through the chicane nicely and keeps it within those wide lines most importantly. Now a final few corners, this final sector, the slowest part of this lap, runs slightly wide out of turn 11, but I don't think he lost too much speed with that. And now down into the braking zone of these final two corners where acceleration can be quite tricky, like we saw with Ryan, especially out of this final corner. Don't want to floor it as soon as possible, but you need to, as Kick is going to come across the line with a 15.959 as well, so he for sure as well on an old set of tires. And then we wait for the two Saubers who are right behind each other here in P10 and P11, and on track as well, heading towards turn 11 with Mominek in front and Taisi following closely. Let's see if they are on the new set of tires, or if everyone in this lobby or in this session right now is on a used set. As Mominek is going to come out of the final corner, can he have a brief moment of glory, putting himself potentially at the top, or will it be amongst the other drivers? It's going to be a 16.0 P5 for him. Where is his teammate? He's gone back into the pit lane, so he might have validated at the end of his lap time, as Happy Meal now goes quickest with a 1:15.5, and that is more looking like it lap time wise.
It is indeed there for Happy Meals, and that is not too bad. I'm not quite sure if he's on a brand new set of tyres or not. Yes, well, no, he isn't, because he's done that on 3-lap old set of soft powered tyres. So with lesser fuel and newer tyres on board, I expect him to go quicker than that. But of course, he messed up his first lap, so indeed potentially messed up his second lap. But his third lap did count, and a 15.5 is quite handy and doable for the time being then, so he should be good enough there to get himself in towards Q3. And Nick, who goes a bit wide out of turn 13 and 14, in code to back, hopefully love driver for the comms codes. Oh, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it so much. I think you talked about Milan here, but Nick goes up into P8 with a 16.644. and slots himself inside the top 10, but goes a bit deep, almost hits the wall at the exit of turn 2. Of course, a Surtees driver did that at the exit of turn 2, and I think it wasn't in the race, it was in qualifying. Back in 2018, it was Valtteri Bottas in Q3, and unfortunately his race was ruined as well, because I don't think he finished on the podium that day either. It was Vettel, Hamilton and Raikkonen, and I think it was both Hasses who unfortunately suffered with tyre problems as well after their pit stop blunders, and they could have scored a handy amount of points, because I think they were P5 and P7 with Grosjean and Magnussen, but Haas just screwed a bunch of points as well for the Constructors' Championship, and I think it was Alonso who finished in P5, Ricciardo P4. Unfortunately, when was the last time an Australian driver had a podium here in Australia? It was 2014, but unfortunately Ricciardo got disqualified, and Oscar Piastri, who we all saw go off towards the penultimate corner as well. When was the last time Australia driver had a podium?
That is a good question indeed. I'm checking in right now as well, because we know, like you said, Ricardo got disqualified after he got an easy podium, and I don't think Webber ever finished on the podium as I'm checking in right now, but I don't think he has. So I'm not really sure if an Australian driver has ever finished on the podium in Melbourne. I think the Australian driver wasn't really part of the calendar during the 80s, but by the looks of it, it's not really been a successful event for Australian drivers, unfortunately. But of course, we know Oscar Piastri next year, or at least in the following years, for sure will be able to get a podium at least once, you would think, around his home circuit, or maybe he will be unlucky as well, like all the other Australians. But he should have the car or have the pace to achieve that. But at the moment, I don't think anyone has. In this qualifying session, Ryan now goes second place. Mominik has gone P5 after going for a second lap on his stars. Ryan now finally with a valid lap and a good lap, without putting it into the wall, has gone second place with a 15.8. Just ahead of his teammate by a few hundredths of a second. So we've got 5.5 minutes remaining here in qualifying. There is still 4 drivers out on track who haven't set a lap time yet, which is Taisi, Leonard, Fireblaze and Geitikas. Fireblaze and Geitikas, we saw Geitikas out on track earlier, but invalidating twice. I don't think we've seen Fireblaze out on track yet, but he might be going out soon to set a lap time. And Leonard has gone off through turns 9 and 10 as he was into the wall on the exit of turn 10 on the right-hander, and had to come back through the gravel trap. And that lap time, unfortunately, will be ruined for the RB driver. Stefan in the Alpine once again invalidating. It's really not going his way in qualifying so far. Just about made it through into Q2. And now once again is struggling in the second part of qualifying, and will have to rely on just one final lap at the very end, because he's going to go back into the pit lane and will have around 4 minutes remaining. I'm sure it's going to be only one lap for him. Is Kick on an improvement? Yes, he is, by 2.5 tenths through sector 1. And let's see if he improves even further in the second part of qualifying, second part of this lap. And yes, he does 3 tenths of a second now up and down towards the final sector, where he should gain even more time with these brand new tires, I would assume. And we might see a new professional pole position lap time. and he could be able to beat the time of Happy Meal. Miles Marquez just started his lap time, but he started with invalidating it, so that's not ideal for the Mercedes driver, who has been almighty so far around this track, but unfortunately running out a little bit too wide, and that is going to put the pressure on him. I'm not sure if he has enough fuel to go for the lap, otherwise he will be in trouble, as Kick is going to go quickest there with a 1:15.147, just like Miles Marquez did in Q1. And the Williams driver really making a mark now here in qualifying. Miles has backed off. He can go back into the pit lane, or he will stay out and go for the lap if he does have the fuel. But he cannot afford to invalidate another time, because he's down in P7. His first back-to-banker lap wasn't that great on his used set of tires. So the pressure might be on here for our favorite for pole position.
Exactly. Expecting Leonard, Fireblaze, Hazikas all to improve inside the 15s as well. So Miles Marquez definitely has to improve on that banker lap, as Tyson now flicks his way through turn 6 and turn 7. That seems like a very decent entry as well. Carries so much speed in the corner. And when I was watching Stefan, he clipped the grass on the outside, had a bit of grass on his tyres, and therefore just lost the grip through turn 6. And Tyson now coming through turn on a turn 10. 43.2 is not particularly a bad middle sector. That's a reasonable middle sector there from Tyson. But can he find any more time now coming towards this final sector? It's so easy to outdo this final sector. A bit wide through there, in towards turn 11 we go. But it's just so easy to mess up through here because the tyres are screaming hard. You've got slow speed / high speed corners through here too. And this one can be very tricky too, because it's so easy to light up the rear tyres heading towards the final corner now. With the DRS Open, we've seen many people spin through there too in the past, as Tyson now heads towards the line. P3 with a 15.731. Wow. Respectable lap time there from Tyson. Miles Marquez out there once again. This has to be a clean lap, because he's running out of time, and plus he's running out of fuel too. So this has to be the perfect lap for Miles Marquez. No mistakes can be afforded to made, because the guys behind will probably improve as well. Sasha's on lap time. We've got Stefan, Fireblaze, Landon and Khatakas all on their outlast. It's the first time Fireblaze has been on the track, but a 42.9 in the middle sector is a mighty improvement. Purple middle sector there for Miles Marquez as he heads down now into towards turn 11. There is a McLaren in the way, but hopefully disappears anytime soon, which he does do, which is short shift now to reduce traction and wheel spin. Coming through turn 12, carries a lot of momentum and speed going through there, has to slow it all down, locks up on the entry, but all so far so good for Miles Marquez. Keep it nice and tidy towards the final corner. DRS wide open all the way to the line. Is this going to be a 14? The answer is yes. It's a 14.8. What an incredible lap time there for Miles Marquez. Smashes it out of the ballpark and obliterates the rest of the competition. And that is a statement itself for Q3. But he has to get out of the way now, because there's a McLaren approaching. Well, that was a bit late indeed, but probably gave the McLaren a hand in slipstream. But you don't know what the car behind. Oh, Ollie almost lost it. He was so fortunate there not to validate the exit of turn number 4, because that was so close towards the boundaries of the track limits. This one was, unfortunately, and he cannot improve on a lap time as just Hood goes up into P3. Sasha there in the Ferrari doing a mega job as well inside the top 3 level. Fireblaze and Khatakas. This is an important lap of their lives, not for Khatakas, but unfortunately he's validated. He's out of Q2, he's out of Q3. And that is it for the RP driver. He's got the time left, but not the fuel, not the ERS. He is out of qualifying. His teammate Stefan goes up into P4 finally for the RP driver. A decent lap time, but Khatakas, there's no way he can go through it again because he's so low on the battery. He barely has left any in his disposal, unfortunately. But when Nick is coming through turn 2, all eyes to Fireblaze 2 down there in P14 to see what he could do in the Mercedes. A regular championship contender all season long as Khatakas smashes in the wall at the exit of turn 3 in frustration for Khatakas. Had the pace to do so, but unfortunately could not hook it up. On board with Fireblaze now, coming through 13, 14, the final couple of corners we go on this racetrack. Is this lap good enough for Fireblaze? His first appearance on the track. Let's see, can he put himself amongst the mix inside the top 10 as he crosses the line right now? It's only P8. It's only 8th place for Fireblaze. He could be in trouble. Because Mummy Nick is on a flyer. He's only, though, about a 10th up in that middle sector, which could be enough to demote Fireblaze even further. I believe Ollie's on a lap too. Yes, he is. Ollie's on a lap. Fireblaze is down to P9. Fireblaze is in massive trouble because other people are out there improving on their flying laps. As Marcus has crashed. He has crashed at the exit of turn 13, Daniel Ricciardo style in 2017. And unfortunately, he is out of qualifying. Mummy Nick now rounds the final corner. Let's see what he could do. Can he get himself inside the top 10? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, indeed. The two Kick-Sabers are inside the top 10, but where is Nick? That's the most important question. He's down in P13, and unfortunately he's backed out. And that is it for him in qualifying. Ollie comes towards the final corner. It's not done just yet, because here comes the McLaren driver. Let's see, can he demote Fireblaze outside the top 10? The answer is yes! Fireblaze has been shuffled outside the top 10, and that's a big shocker. Fireblaze and Hatakas are both out of Q3, and also Mark as well, which is a big surprise. And we see Nick in P13, who has invalidated on his lap time or spun as well. But the big shocker for me is Fireblaze, Mark and Hatakas all outside the top 10 and has to watch the sideline. And Mark says he didn't select new tyres, and that's probably why. Safety car's out. The safety car is out. I'm not quite sure if you saw that, Milan.
I did not really catch that, but could be a visual glitch then. But that's the end then of Q2, and a big surprise for me as well is both Kick-Sabers making it through into Q3. Before this session, I said we could write them down as potential drivers going out in Q2, but then they proceeded to both make it through into the final part of qualifying. Impressive stuff from both of their drivers in 8th and 9th. But you have Fireblaze, Mark and Geitegaas, all three of them are quite big names, and some drivers you would expect to make it through into the final part of qualifying, but all three of them fall at the second hurdle, and they will have to be watching on from the sidelines to see who is going to go for pole position. Though, is it really a contest at this point? Because Melsmack is once again finding himself 2.5 tenths clear of anyone else, and so far the only driver to manage a 1:14 with a 14.8 in Q2. He's going to have to replicate that in Q3 as well, but as long as nobody else around him gets anywhere near that time, pole position should be his. But we saw him making mistakes in Q2 as well, with invalidating his second run. So who knows? If he makes a mistake, there's always drivers out there who could steal away that pole position, and we know Kick can be very consistent in qualifying. But we don't go into the final part of this qualifying session. 12 minutes here in Q3 to determine pole position, who's going to start this race with the best cards in hand, who is going to be on our front row. Although around a track like this with 4 DRS zones, qualifying might not be as important as other tracks, but you would still like to be as high up there in qualifying, so you could fight away immediately at the front for a good position. But first out on track once again is Happy Meal in the Red Bull, although in Q2 it didn't go as well on his first one. We saw him going off through turns 9 and 10, and unfortunately invalidating. Let's hope he keeps it within the white lines on his first run this time. But I expect the majority of these drivers to go out on a used set for their first runs.
Exactly. So as we head into Q3 with a major headline already written, because one of the championship contenders is not part of the fight to the front. Fireblaze is out, and so is Hatakas. 2 drivers we expect in the sharp end of qualifying have been knocked out earlier than anticipated, and that changed the complexion of the session entirely, whether it was traffic, timing, or a lap issue, or just simply didn't have the pace. They're out, and Fireblaze and Hatakas will be forced to watch the pole battle from the sidelines. It opens the door for others, though, shift the balance of power at the front and adds pressure to other drivers who remain inside the top 10. And who could it be to take the golden opportunity to take pole position around here for the season opener on Australia? Money is on Miles Marcus, but we've seen in the past how sometimes you can be very dominant in Q1 and Q2, but when it comes to the main point, when it comes to the absolute important part, drivers can crumble under pressure. It's all about keeping the nerves intact, and we'll see who can keep the nerves at a minimum. Happy Meal is going for a lap time now as we head down towards turn 1. As expected, or suspected, we expect these drivers on a used set of stock compound tyres. The only driver I expect with two sets is Miles Marcus, given the pace he's had and the absolute dominance and sheer. Coming through turn 2 now is Happy Meal. Now through 3 we go. Keeps it nice and pinned on the throttle as well. Good exit there as we're coming through turn 6 now, turn 5. I do get confused between the corner numbers, but now we're coming towards the end of the first sector, 26.1. Of course, this corner is modified to improve the the influence of overtaking and battling, of course, and it should be very important this year as well with the DRS wide open. It changed in 2022. In my opinion, it's a bit better. We've seen quite a few moves going down in towards turn 9 and turn 10, and it's good for League Racer too, because sometimes 3 drivers can swap places at a given moment, as now we head down towards the braking zone up to 11. This corner also has been modified, not by a lot though, but it still improves overtaking by a bit too. Happy Meal, a bit of wheel spin incurred at the exit of turn 11 there, as we now head towards the final couple of corners on this racetrack, as he flicks the car in rather aggressively, hurls the car in towards the final corner. Now with the DRS wide, avoiding the wall on the outside as Carlos Sainz failed to do. Happy Meal across the line right now. It's a 50.3, and that is not bad, you know. Ollie goes up to first place with a 50.2, so maybe not a new set of soft maybe not a used set of soft power tyres. These probably are new. Oh, Ryan there getting all squirrely. He touched the curb on the inside, and the car was all unbalanced. What a lap time! It's a 14.546 there for Miles Makis, and he smashes it once again, obliterates the rest of the competition, and Ryan goes up into P4. Had a massive moment himself. Did the McLaren driver, which puts him on a setback for the rest of the lap. Leonard goes up to P4 with a 50.9 for Racing Bull team. And we'll see what Kick can do as he flies now through turn 6 and turn 7. And also as well, Kick used a lot of curve on the outside too. Was very close towards the validator, but used the exact right amount of track there. Did Kick as he comes towards the end of the sector. It's going to be a 42.8. Not a bad bit of sector, but I think he's still shy of a few hundreds. Oh, never mind. Unfortunately, Kick has validated and has ruined his lap time.
Indeed he has, and that's not really what I needed right now, but that 14.5 of Mel's, it might actually just be enough to get in pole position regardless of what any drivers around him doing, because I don't think anyone is going to be able to get anywhere near that lap time. We might see Kick potentially go into the 114s high, but I don't think he's quite going to be able to match that 114.5 by Mel's. An absolute magical lap time from the Mercedes, and I'm sure that's going to be enough for him to start from pole position, but there's going to be fighting it out behind there as well, of course, who's going to be lining up alongside him, and further down the field as well. So we saw quite a few lap times being set early, but there's also still a couple of drivers who need to improve. 2 Sauers, of course. Ticey with 124 only must have made a mistake on his lap. Mominik comes towards the line, 15.784, putting him right behind Sasha in the Ferrari, and just ahead there of Leonard as Stefan is going out as well in the Alpine on out lap. And he will try to set a representative lap time for his bunker lap. As Ryan, I think he thought he was going to go for another lap as he recharged his battery, but he is not, as he might have run out of fuel. So he is going to go back into the pit lane at the end of this lap with 6 minutes to go. It is Miles Makis on pole position by, well, 0.7 of a second ahead of Olijvoli, but I'm sure that gap will be less once Kick will set his lap time. But it might only be one set lap time for the Williams driver, so it's going to be one shot qualifying for him in Q3, which always adds a bit more pressure to him. Stefan now comes out of the final corner to start his first line lap in Q3, and let's see what he is going to be able to do. The only Alpine remaining in Q3, it's the one we expected, especially through Q1, and that is not really the way you want to take turn 1 and turn 2, as he slid his way out and ran very wide indeed, but his teammate Geitegaas got knocked out in the second part of qualifying down in P15, and Stefan once again just about made it through, but he's going to continue on his lap, but we already know that there's time to be found, especially in the first sector, 26.7, a couple of tenths slower than you would like at the moment, and now full throttle down this back stretch to the back part of this lap, DRS open towards turns 9 and 10. Let's see, can he keep it within the white lines? Can he keep it valid? I see, well, very aggressive on the inside, but on the exit, unfortunately, running out a little bit too wide, and you can see the frustration there riding on board with him, as he once again has invalidated his lap time, and he will head back in towards the pit lane to try again at the very end of this lap time. And I think at that point, everyone will be in pit lane preparing for their final runs, as we've got 4 minutes and 40 seconds remaining with Miles Makis on pole position. But who is going to line up in second place, I think is going to be the question.
And also the question is, can anybody else get themselves inside the 14s as well? But We talked about Ollie not much enough as well in P2. Remarkable performance for him, and credit to him as well in P2. I think on his debut here in SDN. So really good job. I don't think it's his debut. I think he's been around before because I do recognise that name, maybe elsewhere. But he's done such a good job so far. Remember Nick as well in P5 in the kick Sauber like Felipe Nasr did back in 2015, 11 years ago when Nasr made his debut for Sauber as well, and Ticey Pierce, pretty much like Ericsson and Nasr as well, because it's the exact same result in 2015 when Nasr finished in P5, Ericsson, sorry, finished in P8, but both kick Saubers continue to surprise us once again. They are improving slowly but surely every single season too, and I wonder what this season has to offer for both of them. Can one of them reach a podium at least as well? Because Nick hasn't been on the podium at all. I think he was on the podium before in SDN, but that's quite a long time ago before we even arrived in SDN back in season 5. But we finally got some action, the calm before the storm here in the desert of Australia, and we finally can see some cars out on the circuit, and I think one of them is going to be Ollie, because Ryan is still in the pit lane. Here he comes then. Let's see if Ollie in P2 can get anywhere near the time of Miles Mackey's, which is about 7/10 of a second. Now, there's one thing as well. Having the pace in qualifying, it's not all about having pace in qualifying, because sometimes when you see a big gap like that, you expect, the driver's going to pull away in first place. But sometimes they don't always have the race pace to go with it, and they might lack it too. So we could see that Miles Mackey's weak point could be in the race, and let's hope not as well, because Miles Mackey has been super strong, especially towards the backbone of last season too, when his performance was getting better and better every race. He was scoring podiums here and there, then finally picked up his first win of the season in the last race of the season in Abu Dhabi. Of course, Kick and Kevin had their problems. Kevin left the session because he had to do WOR, and Kick, unfortunately for him, lagged out multiple times as well. And Miles Mackis was simply in the right stretch, the right time, in the right place, as he was unchallenged at the front of the field. But he's unchallenged so far. It's going well for the Mercedes man in P1. His campaign is starting good. But of course, this is qualifying, and in the race, anything could change with the race pace, the strategy, the safety cars, etc. Anything implemented in the race can happen and can change a race completely in a swing. We've seen it plenty of times before in Australia to have commentations and race in Australia where the strategy could go completely out the window and down the drain. But on board, there's a bit of traffic in the way. Get out of the way, get out of the way. Oh my goodness me. That was the Mercedes of Miles Mackis, and that could be a grid penalty there for the Mercedes driver. Obvious blocking, and Ollie has the right to complain about that one. Unfortunately for Ollie, he has been blindsided by that one and invalidated lap time too. So, yeah, luckily the invalidation started at the start of the lap because his tyres won't be too bad. The ERS hasn't been used, so hopefully he has enough fuel in the car to go for one more lap. But clear sign of impeding there for Miles Mackis, and you need to have your wits about you all the time, don't you, Manan?
Yeah, that was really not an ideal moment for the Mercedes driver. And we might see a penalty coming his way potentially after the race, but that's not something we can focus on right now. Yeah, not really ideal for Olai Vodi. Of course, he already did a lap time. He did a lap on those tires. Of course, yeah, like you said, it was the beginning of the lap, so he didn't use too much of his tires or his battery. But still, not how you would like to start your flying lap. So we're all at the end here of these out laps, and Mommy Nick is going to be the first one to start his final flying lap here in qualifying in the Kick Sauber, currently running in a very impressive P5 position. Can he hold on to that, or will he drop some positions later on? Happy Meal following him closely behind in the Red Bull, and it's quite busy there out in Sector 3. Let's hope nobody picks up a grid penalty because of that. But I think they have all managed to make it through right now. So all 10 of these drivers going flat out for one last time here in qualifying, and Monique already finding a bit of an improvement through Sector 1. And an ideal start to his flying lap. We'll keep an eye out on everyone else behind as well, who are definitely contenders for a good front row start. As Monique finds 700ths of a second in Sector 2, keeps it within the white lines most importantly. Something probably not everyone will be able to do. Happy Meal behind is up by 0.3 of a second and might be looking at a potential 1:14, and will be only the second driver in the session so far to do so. But he needs to have a clean final sector as well. As the Kick Sauber is going to come out of the final corner. Can he go any higher than what he is right now? Can he be ahead of the Ferrari of Sasha as he crosses the line? It's going to be P4 for Mominik. Very good final sector. Here comes Happy Meal to the line. Goes second place, 15.0. Misses out by a 1:14. Ever so slightly, as Leonard has retired from the session. He will be P6 at best. Then it's the McLaren of Ryan to come across the line. 15.6 only in P5 for him. Stefan has invalidated once again and will stay in P9. Then comes Ticey in the Sauber, as Melsmakers is unable to improve. His lap time was too mighty and stays in P1. Ticey goes P5. Then it's Sasha in the Ferrari, goes P3. Olivoli goes up to P3, and we wait for Kick in the Williams. Can he go P2 at least to beat Happy Meal? I think he can. It was 1:14.9 in the end, and a P2 will be good enough there for Kick. He will be on the front row, but only behind one man, Happy Meal, who didn't even need to improve on his final lap time, a 14.5, and takes pole position by 0.4 of a second here at Melbourne.
Can he transpire that into the race? That's the main question now. Or is other people's race pace going to improve? I am going to go to the tournament land, so I'll be right back with you very shortly. But that was a tremendous qualifying session. Shout out to both Kick Sabers and Olai Olive in P4 as well. That's a mega result there. But it's going to be an interesting run down towards turn one. Can't wait for it.
Indeed. So, Melsmakers will be lining up pole position. Can he get the best launch and remain ahead of Kick? Happy Meal in P3 will want to get a good start as well to maybe get ahead of the Williams or put himself in that fight for P1. Olivoli with a very decent qualifying session as well on the second row, just ahead of Sasha. And like Jamie just said, 2 Kick Saubers, P6 and P7. Very impressive qualifying, and not something we're used to, especially in the last few seasons. They've always struggled to qualify high, and right now with a 6th and a 7th place in qualifying, looking good for some potential good point finishes as well later on. But they need to survive the opening stages of the race, which is something we don't always see from the Swiss team here in SDN, but we'll see how they will manage. The fact is, they both outqualified Ryan in the McLaren down in P8 with a terrible lap time, 15.6 only, and it's 1.1 seconds behind Mels. But let's see what he can do with his teammate in P4, Leonard, who crashed out on his final attempt, starting in P9 with a 15.9. Was Stefan in the Alpine, unable to the lap time, is inside the top 10, but for sure will be frustrated and wants to get those positions later on in the race. But strategy-wise, I think it's going to be an easy one-stop, mediums to hards, hards to mediums, however you like. At the moment, I only see Stefan picking the hard tires over the mediums. And we're going to go towards those 5 red lights already. Here you go, Jamie. We're getting ready for the race.
And we're underway for the Australian Grand Prix here in Melbourne. And it seems Mo Mackis gets a good start off the line as we head down in towards turn when we go. And there's a mixture of orders going on here as well, with loads of cars in different places. Not quite sure what's going on with the timing screens here, but it seems Mercedes maintains the lead ahead of Kick. And we've got Ollie in P3 as well. They're all over the place as well. There's a bit of a glitch going on. There's a Red Bull who's just at the back of the Williams driver, as now they go side by side through turn 4 we go, and turn 5 as well. Ollie just gets ahead for the time being. Around the outside he goes of the Red Bull driver. That's Happy Meal, but on your timing screen, is it going crazy for you?
Yeah, it is as well, but now they have reinstated, I think. So Melsmakers now in the lead on these timing screens as well, just ahead of Kick. Then Olivoli, who got ahead of Happy Meal with a good start. Sasha P5, Ryan with a great start. Then was Mominik in the Sauber. Unfortunately, his great qualifying has become undone. He's down in P16. Mark as well, still spawning around in the Aston Martin. Don't go front wing damage, but it's not what you want to see. And Ryan then P6, then Leonard, then it's Ticey down on 8. Octavian P9, and Geitengaard from P15 on the grid has made his way up into the top 10, as his teammate is falling down the order down to P14 on those hard started in P10, but is now dropped down to P14. I think the only driver to start on the hard session he is. Everyone else around him on the mediums. But at the front, there was a clean start for Mels, exactly what he wanted. He leads the way by 0.8 of a second going into the second lap with Kick in hot pursuit.
I was very scared because I thought I liked that session, because when the race started, everyone was a ghost. I had no control either of anybody until they got down towards turn 1. So I do despise that glitch so much. Not despise it. Despise it. There we go. That's the right word. I absolutely despise that glitch as well, when the timing screens are all messed up. It reminds me of the glitch a few years ago when the race started and all over the place as well. But I really hope they do something. I think it's something to do with crossplay in EA, because we've got a few PC drivers here as well. is to join the session. But right up to P6 now in the McLaren, the DRS has been enabled, and Mels Mackis tried to pull out the DRS range of Kick, but not able to do so on this occasion, although Kick is under massive pressure from the McLaren right behind. Will the McLaren strike immediately or just stay behind the P3 waiting in the wings as well? Let's see what Kick could do. Can Kick stay within the DRS range of Mels Mackis? Because it seems, despite having DRS, he is struggling to stay within the DRS range of the Mercedes driver. Although the Mercedes has used a lot of his batteries so far, hence why he's so far ahead as well, but the gap is about 8/10 of a second then as Kick has able to stay in DRS range. But what a shame for Mummy Nick. All his good work in the Kick Sauber has become undone. Marcus Walls have become a bit of a cropper down there in P17 as well. Now he's down in last place. Unfortunately, Mark, he crashed down at turn 13, I think, where Daniel Ricciardo crashed in 2017 in qualifying, had to start from the back and retired in the race due to a problem with the car. And Sasha unfortunately has picked himself up a 3-second time penalty already in this race, which is a bad sign as well. The number 77 driver, of course, but of course nobody can run that next year because Valtteri Bottas will be back running the number 77, and also Sergio Perez will be back too. But it's one big massive DRS train. As anticipated, it's all about when and where the moves. We know about where because turn number 9 is probably the main suspected place where people make a move with that DRS, and turn 11 too. So that's where the moves will be made. But sometimes moves can be made down towards turn 3 if people are smart about it. People won't really go for a move down towards turn 3 because they know that the DRS will be enabled later on in the laps. There's no point going for it there because it will cost you dearly. But the main excitement really comes towards the end. You're just stuck in one big DRS train, and it's so hard to move forwards indeed. And you're just hoping the guys ahead will just try and overtake each other and go forwards. But when you're in places like this, like Happy Meal, who is under, look at this, here he is down the inside in towards the penultimate corner. He takes full advantage. The McLaren went so deep, and now Sasha goes around the outside. One small mistake from the McLaren driver opened the door for Happy Meal as Sasha to go through, and unfortunately Ollie is down into P5. Ryan, his teammate, is right behind too for good measure, so that was a big mistake there as well. He just drifted and understeered off the track, which enabled Happy Meal to go down the inside. Very audacious move, but it paid off, and he had to make the move. He's up into P3, up the train, and now behind Kick and Mels Mackis as well. So great lunge indeed there from the Red Bull driver. Kick finished second place, didn't he, 2 seasons ago when me and you made our debut here for commentary. He finished behind Lucas because it was a Williams 1-2, and I think Eastbound was involved in the battle too, and Fablaze for good measure as well, and Eric. But Kick would ideally love to go one better here this season in Australia. And I think he had a terrible race back in Australia last season because of the wet conditions. Remember, it was pouring down with rain. Ryan's behind his teammate. Would he dare go for a move towards turn 9? No, he doesn't. But his teammate appears to be struggling at the time. It looks like he's struggling there with the car, with the balance, maybe understand a bit too much with the turbulent wake of the cars ahead. And Happy Meal putting Kick under all sorts of pressure, but has a massive slide going towards turn 11 there. So a very aggressive turn in there for Happy Meal. But we know how aggressive he is the Red Bull driver. Any opportunity he senses, he will go for, as we've seen in the past, and sometimes it hasn't paid dividends for him, and he's fell victim to his own mistakes. And now Sasha under pressure from the McLaren as they go wheel to wheel in towards turn 1. Not a good idea, I suppose. Not really. As we head down towards turn 1, I think Ollie needs to back out of this. It's not really smart play there from the McLaren driver because somebody's bound to make a mistake or hit each other. Now Ryan goes through up into P5 as Ollie unfortunately made a move and went backwards instead.
Yeah, great start for him to go into P3 from the get-go, but now down to P6, losing 3 positions after 2 mistakes there for him, unfortunately, and he slots in right behind his teammate. Mels Mackis tried to get away from Kick in the early stages, but then had to save battery again and saw the gap shrinking again towards the Williams. Now it's growing again because he's using that battery to once again try and do that, as Colin has had an off moment through turn 5 and drops down to last place. But the gap now between Mels and Kick is once again 8/10 of a second, but Kick is being very smart about this. He uses his battery very cleverly, using just enough to stay within DRS range and also conserve those battery levels so he can use it whenever he needs to. The gap's now 9/10 of a second, and once again using a little bit to have that security to stay within that 1 second window. And it's really Mels who is just burning that battery, then saving it up again, and then burning it all again to try and get away from the field, but it's just not quite enough. And Kick once again now 9/10 of a second, a full second away, not using any battery right now. Once again, he knows that Mels is low on battery right now, and he should have the advantage, and he still has that DRS because it is a double DRS zone here around Melbourne, and it's twice in fact a double DRS zone. And now the gap is down towards 7/10 of a second, 7/10 of a second as his teammate picks up 3 second time penalty as well, down in P13, fallen away from the field because Stefan is struggling on those set of hard tires, as Colin meanwhile has pulled into the pit lane in the Haas to put up a brand new set of hards underneath his Haas, and that is a bit of a moment there from Kick, running out slightly wide into the grass. But now you can see that Mels has to save that battery again, and the gap is coming down towards the Williams. But in the background, Sasha is falling away from the top 3, and so is Ryan, who is now getting re-overtaken by his teammate Olivo. He goes back off the P5, but the gap is 1.3, 1.4 seconds to Sasha, who goes wide out of turn 10 and losing a bit of speed as well. Now 1.2 seconds behind the top 3, and will he still have the DRS going on to the start-finish straight? That is the question. He'll want to have that, otherwise he will fall out, and it's really difficult to get back within DRS range. When the cars in front of you have that DRS, because there is 4 DRS zones around this track, and I think, unfortunately for him, he has just fallen outside. But maybe with some clever ERS management, can get back within that. As Olivo now P5, also 1.2 seconds away, and not ideal at all here as we go on to lap 7 of this race. The gap now between Mels and Kick is once again 4/10. Happy Meal very close behind as well. We know he can be quite aggressive with going for the move. So if Kick makes just the slightest of mistakes, we can expect the Red Bull to pick his nose up the inside and try and get past. Sasha now has got back within DRS range, 0.6 of a second. I think Olivo might be very close if he does the same thing, but on the exit, not sure where the detection point is. I think it's right there. So he might just, yes, he just gets the DRS to the Ferrari once again. So as Happy Meal is still putting the pressure on the Williams, but 0.2 of a second, not enough to make that move, especially when the car in front of you has got the DRS as well. In the meantime, there's a battle going on between Geitenkaas and Octavia, but Happy Meal is getting very close to the back of Kick, goes a little bit defensive. Yellow flags are out, and it's because of Octavia, who's gone off on the exit of turn 10. He was fighting it out with Geitenkaas, and I wonder if these two make contact in towards the chicane, as Geitenkaas has gone wide as well. And now being overtaken by Fireblaze to go up into P9. Not sure what happened between those two, but it's Octavia losing a bunch of time, once again going off now and putting himself in the wall there in turn 11. And he finds himself stationary and disqualified, in fact, from going the wrong way. So really chaotic few corners here, and the RB becomes the first driver of this season to retire from the race. In fact, he does get disqualified and Geitenkaas drops down to P10. So really strange moment there between the Alpine and the RB, but Octavia, unfortunately for him, out of the Australian Grand Prix.
Indeed, Octavia made up a load of places as well, up into P9 after being knocked out in Q1, but unfortunately, like you said, made a big mistake at the exit of turn 11 and has disqualified himself too. I think Stefan picked up another penalty in the process as well. He's down on the hardcore pod tires. The only driver who started the hardcore pod tires, of course, Colin just pitted onto the set of hardcore pod tires as well for good measure. By the way, I call what happened to Geitenkaas and Fireblaze. So basically, I think Fireblaze made a lunge up the inside, pushed him out of the way, and Geitenkaas had to go in the gravel and take evasive action, and Fireblaze went up into PA as well. Not the race I expected for Fireblaze. I expected him making moves left, right, and centre, given the pace he's had as well, and he's usually strong around here in Australia, but unfortunately here, he seems to be suffering a little bit too in terms of lacking pace, and now Stefan has got past Geitenkaas as well, so Geitenkaas has been dropped into P11 behind his own teammates, and he seems to be struggling once again in terms of the medical pod ties. Could be falling off for him, as it's usually around this time when the medical pod ties do drop off, and once again, the DRS has been connected between the top 7. Just Hood or Sasha is right behind Hatfield too, so despite lacking pace, despite dropping out of DRS range, somehow got himself back within that detection point and still applying the pressure towards Hatfield. So intense race going on here in Australia with a few mistakes now and then, but looks like Sasha has put his wrongs to rights, although he made a big mistake at turn 5 with the back of the car just stepping out. Fireblaze got past Ticey. I presume that's down at turn 3, I think. So let's see how that happened. No, it was before, so I think they went side by side at turn 3, 4, 5, and Fireblaze got ahead up into P8, but now can he catch, because the gap between himself and Leonard, and here comes Kick for the lead of the race, side by side, but obviously Miles Mackis is no contender to that, and he has to stay behind in P2. So Kick now takes control for the first time in this race, and he's in the lead of this race, and let's see how he controls it. I don't think he can break out of DRS range, given how powerful the DRS around here and Stitching is. So I think Kick there will have to try and defend for Miles Mackis and Happy Meal now, and Happy Meal must be so frustrated being stuck behind these two because he has nowhere to go essentially, and he's desperate to try and get past these two, but unfortunately just stuck in a situation where you have the pace but unfortunately just can't get through because the guy ahead of you has the DRS and you have to sit behind and bide your time and wait for the right opportunity indeed. We've got Sasha in P4 who's still holding on to the back of this DRS trade too. He does have a 3-second tablet. He had a bit of a excursion going out at 11 there, went off the track fully. I think he tried desperately to keep up with the guys ahead, and that's why he went off the track, just pushing so hard in his... Oh, Miles made a big mistake. Is this going to allow Happy Meal through? No, he didn't, but I think he did a George Russell when he touched the grass on the outside and spun the car. Look at this. Does this give the chance for Kick to pull away now, given the opportunity Miles Mackis did? And let's see if Happy Meal now tries to overtake him as well. Does Miles have the DRS? No, he does not. Will Happy Meal try and force a move? This is a big chance, but unfortunately for him, he's too far behind, and Miles Mackis had to use and sacrifice a lot of that battery to get closer towards Kick. He won't have DRS again on this straight because it's one detection point for 2 DRS zones, and Happy Meal this time stays behind for the time being. Then that was a big mistake for Miles. Could have ended badly there, but luckily stays on the track.
Yeah, and crucially stays within DRS range there as well. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but Kick, once he saw that Miles was on the verge of dropping outside of DRS range, he went wide through turns 6 and 7, taking more speed, potentially taking a warning himself as well, and then broke away out of the DRS. But unfortunately for him, Miles just had the better straight line speed, was able to close that gap back up towards the Williams, and now is right at the back again. But tactical games there being played by Kick, but unfortunately for him, does not pay off quite right now. At this point, as Stefan gets past Firebase, those hards finally coming alive and being quicker than the mediums. As Tyson on the previous lap made a pit stop, now his teammate comes in as well. One lap later to put on a brand new set of hards. So Mominic then coming out in B14 as Geitenkaas once again gets back ahead there of Nick, and look how much he is struggling. Geitenkaas down to P10, now 3 seconds behind Firebase and Stefan. Really struggling in this race, not what you'd like to see from the Dutchman, as he just ahead there of the second Williams of Nick. But the question is, when are these drivers going to pull into the pit lane to make their scheduled pit stop? Kick now still out in front, and he's 4 tenths away, 4 tenths ahead of Miles, which is going to be enough to maintain his position. But look at Happy Meal looking to the inside, to the outside, and the Mercedes blocking both of those lines. Happy Meal unable to find a way through. Quite aggressive on defense there from the Mercedes. Happy Meal has to sit behind once again for the time being, and he is going to pull into the pit, and he's going to be the first one to pull the trigger. Happy Meal into the pit lane. Following him is Sasha right behind in the Ferrari, and Leonard as well in the RB, and Happy Meal will go for the undercut, and I think it is quite powerful around here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him out in the lead once Kick and Miles make their pit stops. Oh no, Sasha's got ahead. Sasha has got ahead of Happy Meal somehow in the pit stops. It is Sasha getting the jump there on the ripple, so might have been on release then, or Happy Meal just pressing the button a little bit too late and having a slow pit stop. But Sasha ahead now of Happy Meal, and that will frustrate the Ripple driver even more now, as he was staring at the back of Kick and Miles earlier, but now he was staring at the back of Sasha as well, and this undercut might not work for him anymore, as Kick and Miles might just be able to get ahead of Happy Meal. But the question is, will Sasha be able to get ahead of Kick and Miles? He will have to go for a very mighty outlap and use all he got on this brand new set of tires, even though they're still warming up to operating temperature. But he wants to get ahead of those two, because being stuck behind in the DRS train will really hurt your tires and hurt your race as well. So he would like to get ahead of the Williams and the Mercedes. We'll see if they are going to pull into the pit lane at the end of lap 12 to respond. That was a big moment from Miles in the background. Someone else has gone off. I think it's Mark in the Aston Martin has gone off, and Kick and Miles now both into the pit lane at the end of lap 12. Olijfoli following in as well. Ryan as well, for some reason. It's going to be a double stack then for the McLaren team, so Ryan will lose a lot of time with that strategy. But we will keep an eye out on Kick and Miles, and where is Kick gonna be in comparison to Sasha, who now comes onto the start-finish straight, should have the overspeed, and there he is. He's gonna be ahead of Mels. Will he be ahead of Kick as well, potentially with the on the exit there, with cutting underneath, and Sasha then takes the lead, virtually on track ahead there of Kick. Then it's Happy Meal ahead of Mels, who has dropped down to P4 once everyone has made their pit stop. And Ticey finds himself in the lead train now as well in P5, just ahead of Olivoli. Then it's Leonard and Ryan with that double stack. Lost a lot of time, and now 5 seconds behind. But Sasha successfully completed the undercut, and I'm sure that is going to infuriate Happy Meal, who is still stuck behind Kick.
It is indeed, because Happy Meal just rejoined ahead of Mels Makis, and if that didn't happen, if Mels Makis got stuck behind, if Happy Meal got stuck behind Mels Makis, that would have been detrimental to his race indeed, because he's trying to do the undercut, but in fact got stuck behind 3 cars almost as well. But he's now in P6 then, so in the middle. But unfortunately, did not go to undercut Kick, which was his intention. Danny, oh, it's so close. Mels Makis there, looking to go, not down the inside. There was no way he was going to make it. Probably try and scare Happy Meal, but Happy Meal was not going to be faced by that whatsoever. But it is Sasha who now leads this race, the net leader of this Grand Prix. Kick looks like he's struggling, but of course, he just came out of the pit lane on new hard compound tyres, which are still warming up in this race. And Happy Meal might take advantage, but he's a bit too far back on this occasion to make it a sort of depression as we head down in towards turn 1. This could be a thrilling race all the way to the end of the race. We know that one person won't win, which is just Hood in P2, or Sasha, shall I say. As down the inside comes Mels Makis, there's barely the space, and Happy Meal goes off the track there. And, oh yeah, that was never going to work out, was it, unfortunately? These two getting too close to blows, and something was going to happen between those two, because it was just going to get... Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to describe it, really, but I just saw it off board. I'm not quite sure if Mels Makis dive bombed or Happy Meal didn't give enough space, hence why he went off the track. But either way, it's cost Happy Meal big time now. And we see an Alpine, that's Stefan who goes off the track. And here comes Leonard then, side by side around the outside. There's no way, surely not, as he gets cut off there on the inside, as Ollie picks up a 3-second time penalty. And Stefan, who was the driver who spun, has broke his wing, and down the inside goes the McLaren driver. That's a nice move there from Ollie in P4. And did he overtake under the yellow flags? I'm not quite sure. I think he just made it unscathed. But Ticey is on old hard compound tyres, of course. 3 laps is the difference. But now it's down to 3 drivers to win this race, or 2, shall I say. It's Kick and Mels Makis, because Sasha in P1 does have a 3-second time penalty. So we're hoping that Mels Makis or Kick picks up a penalty indeed. But Mels is right behind Kick for the lead of the race as we head down towards turn number 2 then. Mels is right behind the Williams driver. Is he going to go for a move on this occasion? No, he's not. Exactly the same as Jay saw last Tuesday, says Mark. Well, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about how your race went? Or the incident between Mels and Happy Meal? Because I wasn't there, unfortunately. I was ill, but I am recovering slowly but surely, but my voice is still going, as you can probably tell. So I'm not 100% just yet, as I keep saying every single week, unfortunately. So yeah, it's not been a fast recovery drive. Both got taken out of turn 2. Oh, did they? As Happy Meal gets ahead of Ticey. I thought the first race of the season was Brazil Milan in JSR.
It was indeed, but I can imagine there was some sort of incident between those two. I retired very early on as well on lap 3, so I wouldn't know if something happened between the two. But I'm really surprised if something did. But yeah, a bit of a controversial moment there between Happy Meal and Leonard, and that is Leonard, Happy Meal and Mels, and that is Leonard going very wide. I think he got scared away there by Happy Meal, who is getting very aggressive, and I can imagine why, because he will not be happy with that moment. He was already unhappy being behind all those drivers, and now getting forced off the road by Mels like that, sure, will not help his temper at the moment. So with hope for Mels that he's unable to get back within DRS range, otherwise it might get nasty between those two. But Mels then finding himself with potential penalties coming his way. Of course, we saw him having that moment in qualifying where he blocked someone, and now in the race as well. I don't think I think responsibility will go for him for that incident, because it was Happy Meal who was fully ahead going in towards the corner, and was Mels sending one up the inside. But we'll see what the stewards will think about that after the race. At the moment, they just have to focus on getting out in front in this race. Stefan, his race gets from bad to even worse. Pitted to mediums, and he's dropped down to P13. He gets a 3-second time penalty for good measure. Now full 13 seconds behind Mobinik in P12. But at the front, Sasha remains in the lead, as Leonard is going to get ahead of Ticey, who was on a older set of hard compound tires. Down to P7 he goes, where he started, but still in a good position to score some good points for Sauber. Unfortunately, his teammate had a moment on the opening lap, dropping him down the order. But Thijs is still there, doing strong work for the Kick Sauber team. But at the front, now Olijvoli has caught up to the back of Mels. Happy Meal is now 1.7 seconds behind. It's not going to be easy for him to close that gap towards the top 4, but it's become once again a DRS. But Sasha's pace is quite strong as well, it must be said, because the gap towards Kick doesn't really get under half a second. So if he didn't have the DRS Kick, then I'm sure Sasha might just have been able to pull away from the Williams driver. But Kick, of course, also is still saving that battery. He is really good with ERS management. So Stefan once again finds himself in the wall, coming out of turn 12 and dropping all the way down to P15. Just to hope that he doesn't cause a safety car or something like that. But we're on lap 17 of... yeah, exactly. But we're on lap 17 of 29, 13 to go. And we're all on this second stint. And at the front, things have remained quite unchanged since these bits up apart from Happy Meal dropping outside. And he's dropping behind even further. He hasn't got a lot of ERS to work with. And the gap towards the top 4 keeps growing and growing. Now to over 2 seconds. And you will really need to hope that the top 4 fight it out aggressively before he can close up that gap. Stefan, unfortunately for him, retires from this race. No surprise, he does do it in pit lane, which is good to see. But he becomes our 3rd retirement of the Australian Grand Prix of the season. As we go into lap 80, but Sasha still in the lead of this race by 7/10 of a second towards Kick. And Mels Marquez is getting close to the back of the Williams, but it's so difficult to overtake when the car ahead has got DRS as well. So it's going to have to be an optimistic launch because he needs to get ahead of Kick. Sasha in the lead. We know that he's probably not going to win this race with that time penalty. So Kick right now, he's got the best cards, he's got the most battery as well, and Mills knows he's got the pace, but right now he hasn't got the track position, which is the thing he is trying to get right now. And let's see if he is going to be able to get ahead of Kick in the following laps.
Here's the scenario as well. Kick is in a really good spot. As long as he keeps Sasha in front of him and Miles Mackis behind him and just play around with the battery, he's all good. But Miles Mackey is unfortunately in a predicament, or maybe Kick might go for it immediately, but not just yet. I think Kick should wait until the latter part of this race. And I think that Kick will also win this Grand Prix if it stays like this. But look who's joined the battle. Ollie in P4 has tremendous pace, but him too. 2 out of 4 people here in this battle have picked themselves up a 3-second time penalty in this race. And it's a shame really, because penalties really do influence this race and change everything. Oh, Miles outbreaks himself again, locks up massively, but he's had such good pace. He's been climbing all over the gearbox of Kick, literally, in this race, almost in the back of every single braking zone, but just seems to outdo it a little bit as well in P3. I know it's frustrating being stuck there in P3, trying to do everything, and this game isn't really good in terms of modulating the dirty, etc., and the handling, but it is so increasingly frustrating to be stuck behind somebody for a long period of time, and you're trying absolutely everything, even making small mistakes as well for good measure. But Kick is playing smart. He's been a team player, well, not team player, he's been very smart once again. But look at this. It seems like Kick just went to none on that short straight, but he's got 100% battery, so he shouldn't need to worry so far. I thought for 1 second Miles Mackey's was going to get close to him and overtake him, but Kick has got 70% battery, whereas Miles has only got 5% battery as well. So it's not looking good for Miles in terms of a battery saving as well, with Kick doing a really good job, just managing his battery, managing his pace, and playing his cards at the right time as well. It's a high-speed game of chess, and so far it's Kick's decision whether to checkmate him or not. But he's decided to stay there with P2. There's 10 laps left to go, and Mills has spun! He has touched the grass on the inside there, the outside of turn 11 before it, and unfortunately has spun the car. What a shame for Miles Mackis. I was so excited to see what would happen between those two there. But unfortunately, Miles Mackis seems to be making small mistakes. And guess who's there? Well, the Happy Meal is Happy Meal is right behind, and whatever goes around comes around, as Happy Meal is thinking karma. But let's see then what happens between those two. Hopefully there's no fighting. Well, obviously I hope there's fighting, but in terms of like pushing each other off the track, I hope there's none of that. But hopefully it's good clean racing between these two. I think that these two could still up on the one of these two or three can end up on the podium still, because Ollie and Sasha do have a 3-second time penalty, and Miles Mackis is still in the window of getting a penalty. So let's hope these two keep it clean from now on. Hopefully they scop it out for the podium. But now they're back together, it should be spicy and could ravel things up. But now Happy Meal has the DRS in the back of Miles Mackis. All the pressure has been released Kick's shoulders. As long as he himself doesn't pick up a 3-second penalty. Here comes Happy Meal down the inside in towards turn 9, and that was a very good move indeed. Down the inside, simple move, and he should have the dose of DRS again down towards this 4 straight. He has the DRS to protect himself against Miles Makis, but Miles Makis ultimately has DRS on the next lap as well. So Happy Meal now is up to P4. This is a battle in terms of a podium now between these two, because Olai in P3 has a 3-second penalty, and also Sasha does. I think Sasha is out of the window of Happy Meal and Miles Makis for the time being, but in terms of Olai, he's pretty much unsafe, and his penalty is not secured or solidified just yet, as Ticey is in the pit lane then, so he doesn't feel comfortable. A 10-second time penalty there for the Kick Sauber driver, just overdid it in the pit lane and picked up a penalty. He goes on to a bonus Medical powered tyres to end the race on, and we'll see what he can do there. Both Kick Saubers, unfortunately, have suffered badly in this race. Despite a mega qualifying result, their race ended, unfortunately, with one of them making contact on the first lap, dropping down the order, and Ticey again gets another 10-second penalty for cross the pit lane, exit white line. So it goes from bad to worse for Kick Sauber, unfortunately, in this race.
And you have left the session on my screen, so I think you'll have to rejoin. I'm not sure if you are seeing something glitchy right now, as there's contact between Mels and Happy Meal, but I think you have to rejoin because it said you had left. But the fight is still going on between Happy Meal, and is now going to try and go up the inside of Happy Meal, of course, and there's once again contact between those two, and it's just Happy Mel's forcing his way past Happy Meal, and that is really going to upset the Red Bull once again in this race. That's the second time this happened. This time, of course, he wasn't put into the gravel, but still, it is the Mercedes forcefully pushing his way past the Red Bull, as there's yellow flags behind, and it might have been for... Not so sure, actually. As Kick has left the session. Kick has left the session, and he is disconnected, and that is his chance of winning this race absolutely ruined, and you'd hate to see it, but it's something that's happened so often in the past few league races I've attended in, and that is just so unfortunate. He is trying to drop down a lot of positions, a lot of time lost, and no win it will be, as 10-second time penalty for Geitenkaas for colliding with Ryan and gaining 1 position. That is a penalty I have never seen before in my life. Not sure what happened between those two, as Ryan is a full 2.5 seconds behind the Alpine. But yeah, that's an interesting moment. And Happy once again with Mels Makis. These two are still going at it, and this has become a fight for a potential race win between these two. And Ryan has gone off in the McLaren. What is going on? At this point, Kick is rejoined, but the damage has been done. He's down in 7th place. Ryan picks up front wing damage for good measure, as he is struggling a lot in this race. Sasha now in the lead, and he is 4 seconds ahead of Happy Meal. And if him and Mels Makis keep scrapping away like that, and then Sasha might just still be able to win this race with 7 laps to go. This could get very interesting at the end, because it tells us that Happy Meal and Mels Makis will have to work together to have a chance of winning this race. And I'm quite sure that is never going to happen, seeing what has happened between these two in the past couple of laps. And Leonard now joins this fight as well, as unfortunately Kick's AI makes a pit stop to go to the sods, putting him outside the top 10 as well for good measure. But we've got 7 laps to go. Sasha and Orijvo in the lead, and then it's Happy Meal in P3. But can he or Mels do anything to close that gap towards the top 2 and have a chance to beat Sasha for the race win?
This race has completely changed ever since I left the session and joined it again. Ironically as well, when I rejoined the session, Kick got boot start, so hopefully I had nothing to do with it. But here comes Miles Makis now on the back of Happy Meal, going through turn 9. He might set himself up going down in towards 11 if he stays close enough. He does have the DRS, but I don't think these two should scrap that hard. And here comes Miles Makis now back ahead in P3. I think they should work together. This is a bit of an oxymoron, but work together and fight later on to try and get that gap down. Maybe trade DRS to try and close in on just Hood, because maybe potentially Miles Makis is once again he breaks himself in the same place, and mistakes like that will keep losing time and time and time, which allows Sasha to get a bit of breathing space and a bit of a margin. And here comes Happy Meal once again, up into P3 ahead of Miles Makis. Now the Red Bull driver gets another dose of DRS, and let's see. In these last few laps, can these two try and work together? I don't think they will, because one of them's got to sacrifice themselves for the other, because obviously Happy Meal or Miles Makis, if they get the gap under 3 seconds, will have a chance to win the Grand Prix, and you can presume they'll scrap again. But the gap is 4 seconds. Happy Meal needs to gain a second if he wants to try and win this race. But easier said than done, of course. Sasha, there is a big chance for him to win this race now. This race has completely changed on his head, with the main rivals of Mels Makis, Happy Meal and Kick all staying in the problem in this race, all of them who look like to be a contender for the race victory, but changed ever since the last few laps. And Mels Makis is right behind Happy Meal. I heard his engine in the background too, because I was on board with Happy Meal. I heard him getting closer and closer too, for good measure. And Leonard is there. Leonard's got unnoticed in this race. He's in P5 doing a solid job, although Fireblaze is almost there too on the scene. Fireblaze is pretty much gone unnoticed in this race and quiet, but he's still up there in P6 and doing a really good job so far. Without a 3-second penalty, which could be handy towards the end of the race, depends if there is a safety car or not. But Leonard is putting the Mercedes under massive pressure. I'm getting confused between the Red Bull and Racing Bull livery sometimes as well, as we head down in towards turn 1 once again. Sasha's got a 2-second gap towards Ollie in P2. And of course, Ollie does have that 3-second penalty himself, which pretty much means that he's safe from him. But his biggest target, his biggest threat, is these guys behind. Happy Meal and Mels Makis. These two haven't really been friendly in the past. They came to blows multiple times as well, and elsewhere as well. Apparently in JSR, these two collided. And here in SDN, we've seen it once again, when Mels Makis sends it down the inside. They've cost themselves the race, really, haven't they? They've thrown away a race victory due to their own mistakes as well, but they'll learn from it, of course. And in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. But here goes Mels Makis. He flies past the Red Bull driver and he goes up into P3. Gives him a bit of a shake as well. Just leaves the car left and right. But they keep exchanging. They're not really finding any time, as Kick gets a 3-second penalty. I presume he's back in the session because the AI won't pick up penalty. So I think he is back in this session then. And he's fallen all the way down into P11. What a shame, because this has happened multiple times for Kick. I remember Silverstone was the biggest problem because 3 drivers championship contenders left the session that day, and all in the tears for them after having such good pace. And also last season, when Kick just left the session multiple times, Las Vegas was the biggest one, because remember, he was on pole position in Las Vegas and he left the session, fell all the way down to last place. A safety car came out, he finished in P2 while Kevin Sundberg won the race. There is so many missed opportunities for Kick and so many good points lost in a season due to his internet cutting out all the time. It must be so frustrated. And it's the same thing as well with another friend I have who keeps leaving the session. His name is Sam, and I think you know him as well. Sam keeps leaving the session as well for good measure, and it's so frustrating for him when you have good pace, but unfortunately you don't have everything you need in terms of gear because your internet keys cutting you down, just like it did for me moments ago as well. But luckily I'm not racing, I'm just commentating. I haven't really missed much since then as well. But Sasha is keeping a good stable gap between himself and Mels Makis. The gap is about 4 seconds almost all the time, so as long as Sasha doesn't make any mistakes, but he's got to keep pushing. He's got to keep pushing to get that gap over 3 seconds, because he's in danger of Mels Makis closing in. Mels Makis still needs to get time, but he's praying and hoping that these two continue to fight all the way to the end of the race. There is 3 laps left to go. There may be not a physical battle on the track, but there's a battle in terms of penalties, because Sasha does inherit that 3-second penalty, and Mels Makis is only 6 heads behind to win this race. It all coming down to the wire between these guys. It's not a battle on track, it's a battle in terms of penalties.
Indeed it is, and the gap is now around 3.6 seconds between Sasha and Mels, who is gaining a few tenths here and there every single lap. But he's still got that Red Bull driver behind him for good company. And at this stage, I think they might be able to just get it down to 3 seconds, but it will be on the final lap, and that will be around the time that Happy Meal would like to get past Mels Makis again, and then they would lose time again towards the Ferrari driver. So it's going to be very tight indeed for the race win. The gap's now down to 3.4 seconds, but here comes the Red Bull of Happy Meal. He's going to get ahead of the Mercedes once again with the help of DRS. Goes around the outside, and Mels does not defend the inside. They're working more together than I expected, but let's see on the final lap when the gloves are going off. And Mels picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, and that has completely eliminated him from this fight for the race win. In the meantime, Fireblaze has caught up to the back of these drivers, and he might be getting a very good result as well. A potential P4 or P3, who knows? As Happy Meal now 1.6 seconds behind Olijfbode, but he's not got the pressure anymore. of Mels Makkers at least for a finishing position at the end of the race, but still, of course, Happy Meal would want to get as far ahead up the road as he wants, especially with the early controversy between himself and Happy Meal. With Happy Meal now is the only driver who still has a chance, in the gap between himself and Sasha is 3.0 seconds going on to the penultimate lap of this race, and he really cannot afford to fight it out with Mels Makkers. But look how much he is struggling with the back end. But Sasha, his tires are a lap older, and he might be struggling with the tire wear as well. It's going to be super close for the race win here. Happy Meal now with 2.9 seconds. Now it's 3 seconds again. And here comes Mels Makkers in the Mercedes. He's going to try and get ahead of the Red Bull driver once more, and he does so, rounding around the outside to take P3 in this race, and that drops Happy Meal down to P4 again, and the gap grows towards 3.2 seconds. But at this rate, they might be able to get within DRS range of Olijvoli, which could help out. Happy Meal's Fireblaze is going to go around the outside of Leonard to take P5, and we could see a potential podium finish for Fireblaze after starting outside the top 10, which would be very impressive indeed for the Mercedes driver. But we're going to go on to the final lap of this race, and the gap between Sasha and Happy Meal is 3.2 seconds.
Indeed it is. Happy Meal is still outside the 3-second window, but the benefit, he does have the DRS of Mels Makkers. Mels Makkers is 2.4 seconds behind Sasha, so this DRS benefit could help Mels Makkers Happy Meal entirely, and Happy Meal could be on for his first win ever here in SDN. He's been waiting patiently for such a long time, but mistakes have come along the way. Every single time he's had a chance, back in the Netherlands as well, back in Japan. It wasn't really a mistake, it was a bit of a misjudgment there from Happy Meal. But this could be his biggest chance, especially down these two back straights with the DRS is enabled. Keep an eye on the gap. You're looking between Happy Meal and Sasha. The gap is 3.2. Happy Meal, if he wants to win, the gap has to be under 3 seconds. It has to be, otherwise he won't win. But Sasha, on the other hand, is also looking for his first win in SDN, but the gap, unfortunately for him, is 2.8 seconds. Fireblaze is right behind too, and Happy Meal now, the gap is 2.5, so surely he has this win in the bag. What an incredible recovery drive in the end. It was all about consistency and picking up the less penalties, and he surely now can see the checkered flag in his sights because he's under 3 seconds. Sasha is heading around the final corner. Any hope for victory, unfortunately, is out of the window. But here comes Happy Meal for the first time in the first race of the season. Happy Meal wins the Australian Grand Prix after trying for such a long time. Victory has finally come his way, and Fireblaze is up into P2 from starting down to P11, knocked out in Q2. He has managed somehow to finish on the podium. Such an intense, incredible race, and a lot of people in this race unfortunately suffered from their misfortunes and blunders, and some with internet connection issues. But Happy Meal unexpectedly wins the Australian Grand Prix and finally kickstarts his campaign to a perfect start, even though it was a perfect start for him because he had many misdemeanors and adventures in this race. And finally, in the end, it came to him when Mels Makkers picked up that 3-second penalty, and Sasha too. Sasha picked up a penalty early on in the race too for good measure. Oh, what a shame for Sasha as well. But unfortunately, that's what happens in league racing. You got to be very consistent and got to be the one who's there at the right time with no penalties. And Australia as well is quite notorious in terms of picking up penalties. But Happy Meal, in the end, the one who prevails, the one who comes out on top, the one who starts the season opener to the best possible start in history of SDN as well. Such a great race. And I do remember as well, Lucas won the Australian Grand Prix due to a post-race penalty by Matisse, or one of the RP drivers. But in the end then, it is the Red Bull driver who had contact with Mels Makkers in towards turn 3. I bet Mels Makkers must be so frustrated as well. He spun himself out of turn 11, but so many mistakes were made in the race. But in the end, it was Happy Meal was the one who came on top and steal the thunder and glory from the rest of the field. And shout out to Fireblaze 2 in P2. Somehow that Dutchman got himself up into P2. I don't know how, he just came out of nowhere in the last stage of this race. He was in no man's land at the start of the race, wasn't he? At the very back and way outside of DRS, but all of a sudden he came flying through at the end to take P2. And Sasha was more still good for him to get his first podium of the season. Olive in P4, started where he finished in P4. Decent result for him. But for the likes of Mels, Makis and Nick Kick, what could it have been for them? And Leonard too, great for him in P6. And Nick is one in P7.
Very, very impressive stuff from both Happy Meal and Fireblaze, finishing on the podium, and Happy Meal with his first win. Very well deserved. And this race just went in so many directions with so many potential race winners. But in the end, it is the Red Bull driver we thought was out of contention when he got put into the gravel trap by Mels Makis earlier on, but then fought his way back. And most importantly for him, did not get himself a 3-second time penalty, unlike many other drivers around. Of course, he did have some luck with Kick disconnected. Because I would think that Kick would have easily won this race had he not been disconnected. But that is something, it's always if, and unfortunately for him, this is how it ends up. And once again, he finds himself further down the order than he would have liked and what he probably would have deserved. But it is very, very well done to Happy Meal. A great victory in the best way to start off his season. Fireblaze, 11th place to 2nd place. Didn't see him much at all in the race, but he did what he needed to do. And he did it very well to take that 2nd place. But yeah, what an enjoyable race that was. Crazy fighting between all of these drivers. And I'm looking forward to the next race and see what the rest of the season has in store for us. Because this one was very, very enjoyable to watch. So great race tonight, and I'm looking forward to next week when we return for the 2nd round of the season.
Yeah, it is the USA Grand Prix, which is next week, so that should be very interesting. Hopefully it's COTA, but it could be any 3 of them. It doesn't really specify on the calendar which one it is. It just has the American flag in the background saying USA, so it could be any 3 of them. But we know that Miami could sometimes produce a good race. Las Vegas definitely can with the long back straight with a 1.9 kilometer, 1.2 mile straight, and USA COTA always delivers as well. So I hope it's Las Vegas or COTA. I don't really like Miami, but either way, hopefully it should be an interesting race, and Kevin Sundberg should be back soon as well. But that's the end of the season opener here in Australian Grand Prix, and it also marks our 3rd season together. Me and Milan have been partners since season 5. For very first ever commentary together at the Australian Grand Prix at the January the 6th, I think it was, a year ago exactly, not exactly, but a year ago fully. And this is our 3rd season, so you've got the commentators back of me and Milan Langer, hopefully giving you some good action. And once again, Milan, thank you very much, mate, for being alongside me. Even though I'm still ill, I always try and do my best.
Yeah, you did a great job as always, and thank you for being there as well. It's been a pleasure as always, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next one.
Thank you very much, Dutchies. See you all later. Have a good night for now, and see you all next week in USA.